Drive My Car wrecked me. Drive My Car reminded me to try my hardest to be 100% genuine with my emotions and like what I'm feeling in any given relationship, because at the end of the day, it's completely possible to lose that person forever, and that connection, that communication is just severed forever. Get mad. Be obnoxiously giddy. Just be real with your emotions, or else you're only going to be having surface level relationships and friendships that are disingenuous and unfulfilling, honestly. So this is something that is not new. It's something that's been anthropologically proven time and time again, but humans are social creatures. And sometimes we're anxious when it comes to all of that. So for a lot of us, it can be scary to think about losing someone just because maybe you think you said the wrong thing, or maybe, you think you let someone down. And we have this fear that, like, people around us are just going to leave us and abandon us forever, which, if you're surrounding yourself with good people, that is likely not going to be the case. But what if tomorrow you actually lose a loved one? Like, for real. Like, what if they pass away and you can no longer express anything to them again? What then? What was all of this anxiety all about when you can't even say hello to that person anymore? Something as simple as that. So with this time that we still have with the people we love, our best bet is to be real and be genuine and create deeper bonds with people, regardless of how scary it is, of how scary it can be to potentially say the wrong thing. I promise you, these people understand. And if we're talking about someone you truly, deeply love, they deserve that. They deserve to be berated whenever they wrong you. They deserve to be celebrated when they do something amazing. They deserve to know how deeply you care about them. And sometimes just being genuine with your emotions and communicating them is enough to let them know how much you care about them. So yeah, people who genuinely love you unconditionally should definitely be able to take you at your maximum and most authentic self, even when you do maybe say the wrong thing or you think you're too much to handle. A theme in Drive My Car that I actually really appreciated, and this movie is just so subtle and has a way of just spelling things out to you without having to spell them out. It's so weird, and it's been a while since I've seen a movie that kind of hit this hard for me. Something that was outlined in this movie was the idea that different people have different capacities of perceiving you. So depending on people's, emotional intelligence or just their open-mindedness, they will perceive you differently than the next person, etc. Or on the contrary, we all interact with all the people that we know in slightly different ways, with different subtleties mixed in. For example, say you feel a bit more comfortable talking about darker, deeper topics with some people, and with other people you like to keep things generally light and fun. I don't think this is a bad thing at all. I really just think that the priority should be being true to yourself in terms of your emotions and what you're feeling and communicating these things. But, different people have different energies, and you bounce differently off of different people's energies, so that's a huge factor in that. In the scene where Yusuke and Koji were in the car, which, first of all, that scene, when they were driving in the car, that, so perfect. You know those moments in a movie where the writing is just so well done? It's just like these communications and interactions with people that are just so satisfying and fulfilling, in positive ways or negative ways. But I remember I when I was watching the movie, I really wanted this moment to happen between Yusuke and Koji, because they both loved Oto, who was Yusuke's wife, who passed away earlier on in the movie. It's implied that Koji and Oto had an affair. And Yusuke knows this. So it's kind of like a weird tension going on throughout the whole film. And this conversation kind of just broke that tension, at least for me. Obviously the tension is still there, but in terms of addressing the elephant in the room, this scene did that. She was writing a story and was telling Yusuke about it, and by the time she passed away, he never heard the ending. Whereas with Koji, he got the ending, and the ending was kind of dim and dark. It was kind of bitter. So Yusuke was explaining to Koji about his relationship with Oto and how he didn't want to dampen the relationship with maybe going into darker territories. For example, just to give you an idea, Oto straight up cheated on Yusuke multiple times, and he knew it full on. She would see other men and whatnot, and he would just kind of take the L on the chin and just like, keep moving onwards, and he wouldn't confront her about it at all. She obviously never confronted him about it, but for the sake of the relationship, he just kind of let it slide and let her do her thing, but in exchange, the relationship would stay relatively undampened. And also an important thing to mention is they had lost their child earlier on, like I believe it was 15 years earlier, but they lost a daughter, and that's like something that is excruciatingly painful for a couple, I can only imagine. So they also wanted to keep things patched up together, and he didn't want to ruin that. My theory is that Oto and Koji had a relationship or an affair where they were more open about talking about darker topics, and Koji's character is kind of explored in an interesting way. He's a failed actor, failed because he had sexual assault charges on his name, so obviously that went out to the public. His career was essentially ruined, and there are moments where Koji and Yusuke go to a bar, and Koji will hear people taking photos of him, and he'll just like lash out and beat the person up, and there's a lot of darkness in Koji. So just putting two and two together, I feel like as a person, Koji's not as afraid to delve into darker topics. So that's what he did with Oto, and the relationship was maybe more on the raw, darker side, potentially. And that's why he got her end of the story. And I'm sure she would have told Yusuke the end of the story had she lived on. But maybe there was like that hesitation there. Even like a subconscious hesitation of like, this is a bit darker. I'd rather like ease my way into telling him the rest of the story. Whereas with Koji, maybe she didn't have that hesitation. So that's something that I thought was pretty interesting. And maybe that was just me reading into things. But that's the fun in movies, is like overcomplicating things and making your own headcanon. But yeah, that was kind of my takeaway on Drive My Car. It's such a soft-spoken but powerful film about how complicated relationships are and how imperfect they are, but they're just so worth fighting for at the end of the day. I really believe that. I believe if you care about someone and you care about yourself, you should do your best to make relationships work. And throughout this whole video, when I say relationships, I mean romantic, platonic, familial, all of that. This movie made me believe in like building myself up to be the best version of myself so that I can share the beauty of life with like other people. It sounds corny, but it's like so true. I want to be better for myself, but I think having these relationships and people alongside you throughout life is just such an important part of being a human. And this video got deep. But yeah, it's what I really believe, and I love watching movies and like creating like philosophical takes or just like overthinking the plot and character development and building my own mental philosophy. I think it's important to analyze the things you consume and create like a huge puzzle piece of your psyche and your philosophy and morals and beliefs and tastes, and just like build upon yourself by consuming great things and like creating great things as well. Anyways, that was a rant. But yeah, definitely give this movie a shot. Not even just a shot, like just watch this movie. But yeah, go watch cool stuff, go do cool stuff, go make cool stuff, and go make awesome relationships and friendships. Anyways, yeah, that's me. See you on the next one. Congrats on... How do I end this video?